Today, a bit different once more, cause why not, right? Eh, Watching different stuff is always a pleasure, no, isn't it? And I haven't watched this in particular, this actor at least. I don't really watch actors really. I watch the movies and random actors pretty much. I don't follow a single actor. Well, obviously, in time a sort of rapport will still be established, considering well, some prolific actors are inevitable. But I don't follow them. I'm not a fan of. Well, obviously there are preferences, but I still do not just go. It's the most absurd thing, to do in my opinion. Because I'd rather movies to be separate in their own sort of timeline, rather than, oh, I watch this because it has the same actor or anything. At best, I watch the same director, the same, but then that's still the problem because many directors employ the same actors. So that makes me end up sometimes watching the other director's movies later on. Not always though. And obviously it doesn't apply with anime, considering in animation everything is different apart from voice actors, but that they're not very obvious really that they're the same. Anyway, I'm going to watch what was it called again? A Jack Jack Lee, I think. Yeah, that's how familiar I am with him. Not very. A Jackie Chan. Yeah, I don't know why I confused his name there. Well, there is a Lee, isn't there? What's he called? The other one? Oh, I don't know that. I am actually not very great at names. I mean, obviously, this guy is fairly popular, but is he the one who's still alive? I know someone died. Yeah, this guy is still alive. Good for died. And who died? No. Hmm. Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So I'm going to watch um Armour of God. I don't think I ever watched it. It's really old though, it seems. And there's a sequel. Well, I don't mind, I'm going to watch it either way. Okay, so I'm assuming it's not really necessarily religious. And based on what I remember of this actor, all his movies are comedic pretty much. I mean, comedy is one of the genres. Yeah. So yeah, the poster though looks like Rambo or something. It's really weird. Anyway, I don't care either way. It's nearly the average length of a movie, really, a bit over an hour and a half. So I'm just going to begin. Let's see, instead of some soppy romance like yesterday and barely any comedy, I bet this one has more comedy than the one yesterday has. I'm assuming it has less food though, so I'm not assuming much, I'm just assuming some comedic martial arts. That's pretty much all I assume I'm going to watch. And the beginning certainly is more than I bargained for. Then again, you never know. What I don't remember such in Jackie Chan movies before, but I suppose it can happen in so-called action films. But seriously, you just sat down as soon as he arrived. Like really, or just like some sort of movie he wants to watch himself. Right. So he went from avoiding a million spears, miraculously they all missed him miraculously, very miraculous, and to flying a plane, hidden in bushes, to singing in a band, huh? Hmm. He has an overactive imagination. All in 5 minutes, huh? Also, why would anyone name their band Losers? Like, really? I'm surprised there could be anything successful using such a name. It's, sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy, I suppose. Because in real life, I doubt there is such a name being used by anyone. And I don't remember Jackie Chan movies having so many singers and songs. And this has a bit of probably a bit of blood as well. Usually martial arts don't result in blood, but of course there's some gun users as well. And I guess the difference between this and most other movies is that it's done to singing. Yeah, not many murders are done to a song in the background. Guess what this way say so is that I haven't seen a Jackie Chan movie in a long time, and I barely remember them, considering either that or they're all different from each other, I suppose. I don't know, besides this basic quality of him using martial arts, I suppose. He certainly always does that. But I just don't remember guns and songs in his movies. No, I don't. And there's been 2 songs so far, and it hasn't even been 10 minutes, so I'm assuming they'll continue on like this. And on an unrelated note, I'm not sure why I just suddenly realized this now, but there was a bidding scene, and yeah, I just realized that real life auctions are different from the system eBay uses, because on eBay the amount is usually the sort of the highest one goes. It's not though the end amount, so if nobody bids higher than that, then the item goes at the higher amount above the second bidder. As in real life auctions, it seems the amount that's bidded is the amount it goes for. So I guess you need to be more careful as to what exactly I mean, even on eBay, though, obviously, anyone else might bid closer to it or above, obviously, in which case it's no longer possible to win it. Yeah, and at one point, I mean, I'm not sure this is a subtitling issue. I mean, otherwise the subtitles seem to be fine, really, up to the 12th minute at least. Especially in comparison to what I watched yesterday, where they were utterly horrible. Nope, no sentences were missed here, mainly so far. But yeah, anyway, at one point though, um, 2 words space phone are used, and I have no idea what a space phone is. So I tried to search online, and I mean, there are some things currently, um, just some things, some hypothetical things, but I doubt they have any relevance in 1987, where this film was made. And so yeah, I have no idea what space one is. Maybe they'll indicate later on. And wow, he hates him because he stole his pants. That's yeah. Was he seriously sleeping while driving? like totally sleeping, huh? It seemed like it, right? That is some bizarre stuff. Normally one doesn't survive that. Simply, but of course, this is some fictional dude, so he does, yay. And didn't realize, I don't didn't remember that. As I said, I watched another one as long ago, so it must have been years. Because I don't usually find them with the correct expectation. This is the problem. I was surprised to find this one that was, in fact, that fit that, uh, you know, 108 thing. Anyway, yeah, I forgot how that they usually have Need for Speed sort of thing, or just general car chases. All I thought Jackie Chan movies had were martial arts, but apparently they involve car chases and motorbikes as well. Motorbikes chasing cars. Huh. Also, the music during that scene reminded me of the OST in Touch. Now, the two have nothing to do with each other. That's entirely different, it's sports themed and more drama than action comedy. Uh, but the music did remind me, so I wonder if it's just generally the time that it was composed, because of course they did come out around the same time in the 80s, I think. Yeah, I think Touch was a bit earlier, but yeah, and but it really was reminiscent. It didn't occur to me at first what it was reminding me of, but soon enough it did, and I do like its OST. Probably the thing I like most from it, actually. Why would they pay him at 100 for no answer? Suppose they want to make it as part of its comedy, but that would be really idiotic to do in real life. I'm trying to figure out where they are, and I don't seem to be able to. I mean, the architecture seems almost Italian, but could be anywhere in the Mediterranean. They haven't explicitly said, and yet they supposedly speak Chinese, and it doesn't really look like a Chinese city. They did mention it's European area, unless they went to another country after that counts mention. I tried to search for Konal Baba, which they were in, but there's no Konal Baba there. And the most similar is Konoban Garden Bar or something. It's in Croatia, but they don't speak Chinese in Croatia, of course. Anyway, also the rope guy, the rope people look like Franciscan friars, don't they? I think. For some reason, the subtitling, when the rope people speak, is weird. It's like suddenly they lost the ability um, to translate with the correct grammar. It's strange. I'm not sure if because they're speaking maybe another language and they don't know how to translate it or something. And it makes no sense. So as a translator, we need to be able to translate, as to a single language, and then it depends on, you know. mm. With regards to the roped people, it's like the director or whoever cast the actors thought, yeah, unibrows would make them look nefarious. Yeah, they have such bushy eyebrows, don't they? It's like an animal living there or something. And yeah, I finished it, and well, the usual anyway. Doesn't very much veer apart from all these other movies, does it? It's the same formula over and over again. And in the end, the bloopers were kind of fun, though, but it wasn't. I mean, it's too much comedy. Apart from, obviously, it's a physical kind of comedy. It's not intellectual. It's more slapstick, I suppose. But there was more of that in the bloopers than there probably was in the movie itself. The bit though where all the bombs go off, he couldn't manage them. Yeah, that was so funny. I didn't know anything related to explosions could be funny. You know, usually explosions aren't funny, but the way he tried to contain them at first and then for everything to go out of hand. Yeah, I guess it's sort of entertaining in that context, but otherwise it's fairly formulaic, isn't it? It always is. It is films. They're not exactly the most complex at all. Fairly simple and fairly straightforward. So I mean, it's it wouldn't be a spoiler if you read it. Yeah, the one they're trying to save is saved in the end, and he gets what he wants. It's yeah, they're not the kind of movies that subvert a lot of expectations, do they? Like at best, there were a few guns that I didn't expect because I know his movies mostly rely on martial arts, not guns. Guns is more of a Western thing, I thought. But that's the thing, then it's a bit weird that guns didn't reappear at the end. Suddenly the rope people all suddenly know martial arts somehow, magically. And so it's a bit strange because of that, isn't it? Um, but anyway, it's what it is, really. I mean, yeah, I'll watch the sequel at some point. Apparently, it was made around 5 years or so after. So the first one was actually made in '86, apparently. Not so much. It was possibly released in '87, not made in '86, apparently. At least the copyright seems to think that. Also, what is this? It's so annoying. The sequel apparently has a different aspect ratio. Now, I know it may be technical and not very interesting, but it's really annoying when this happens. It's one thing if they're their own movies, but why would a sequel have a different aspect ratio? It's so annoying. Uh, I end up watching them in a sort of different way. And anyway, yeah, that's a minor complaint in comparison. Just need a bit more time, I guess. So I probably watch it at some point, but maybe not exactly after. It's these can be sort of, I don't know, a bit stale, I guess, especially if you watch them end to end. Hours of the same thing. Anyway, it came years later, so I'm not going to watch it years later, but I'm not going to watch it, the day after. It would be a bit too close. I don't know if it continues, plot-wise, but yeah, otherwise it's a bit stereotypical. It was a bit, as I say, but it's to be expected though. One of those things. I've never watched it. I mean, it's quite old at this point, more than 30 years, and But anyway, I've watched them, well, whatever. One of those kind of movies, I guess. Yeah, I love. So today I think I'm going to go a bit. I'm going to watch the sequel to Armour of God. I think it was called Operation Condor, apparently. Yeah, strangely enough, it was released as the first Operation Condor, and then somehow the original was released as the second, and made to look like a prequel or something. I don't know. Just because they wanted to change the name, I'm assuming due to religious connotations. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just going to watch it. So it wouldn't. It's already been like a week or so since I watched the original, so I wouldn't, forget it too easily, I guess, too quickly. And that I'm assuming, it doesn't much rely on plot normally, but does just a bit, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to go for it now anyway, instead of something new. So yeah, I was just a bit annoyed earlier. It took me some time because of the aspect ratio, but that's easily solved, I guess, by just a bit of annoyance. But there are some media players that can stretch and stuff. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to begin it now. So I wonder what made them want to, or not mind including a mistaken sweet thing, at the beginning, at the very beginning as well. In the original, there wasn't a single time where they included it. In the main movie. They did in the bloopers, but not in the actual movie. In the actual movie, every single one that he did, I think, were successful. So, as if, somehow, bouncing it off something is always going to somehow land in your mouth, and which is obviously a bit of a stretch. Somehow, for the second one, he decided to go for it very beginning with a failure. Strange choice. And one criticism that I think could be made of these, I think I'm assuming Jackie Chan's movies generally, is that they're not very um well, obviously it's not like they're trying to be a documentary or anything. Most other movies do this sort of thing, and yet they don't try to be even remotely realistic in the sense that sort of like so-called Mr. Anderson, the best locksmith in Europe, somehow is so fluent in Chinese. I mean, how is that possible? Everyone speaks Chinese, from the baron, to everyone. It's a bit, yeah. The scene with the gun. I mean, I don't. If there is one thing I suppose that Jackie Chan movies do is make what is normally threatening seem funny. I mean, in a certain context, it is funny. And there was a similar scene in the original with dynamite system. And I mean, under normal circumstances, dynamite's all guns aren't funny at all. But somehow in this context, the fact that they can just, uh, you know, be not even within the control of those using them, unless Unlike, I suppose this is the main difference, unlike the usual where people can control them and they can threaten others with them. That's not funny at all in any circumstances, really. But in this context, and the fact that somehow miraculously no one gets hurt, uh, makes it funny. I mean, obviously, if instead of just a damaged hotel, there's loads of bodies, people who happen to be shot mistakenly, which would happen in real life, but obviously this is a fictional um, um yeah, it's completely made up fantasy, really. In real life, you cannot have a gun that goes off on its own without anyone getting hurt, really. I mean, if a building can be destroyed, then people can be hurt. But this is just a comedy mainly. It's not a thriller or anything. It's just made to be funny. Somehow they succeed. I suppose it's sort of like a contrast to comedic horrors, where they try to integrate horror along with comedy. Instead integrates comedy along with martial arts and gunfights and car chases. Wow, I think it's mainly a Jackie Chan thing, isn't it? I mean, suppose there might be some other movies like this. I think Tropic Thunder was an action comedy. But other than that, well, I'm sure there are many others, but I can't think of any right now. This type of thing, though, I think is mainly Jackie Chan. I think, I suppose. There are many other martial arts movies, but I don't think generally they do have comedy in them. Somehow, so he made so many that it appears they pervade this genre. Because I mean, overall, I don't think there are many martial arts movies either. I mean, yeah, so I'm not sure if the majority is by him. In which case, the majority would be, I suppose, comedic martial arts. But anyway, yeah. Um. So yeah, I noticed that people seem to think that this is slightly better than they rated it slightly more than on average than the original. Not sure why that is. I mean, people usually rate sequels slightly less, maybe because it was released as some sort of non-sequel thing. Yeah. Um, I think it's fairly similar, except for some. Overall, it's very similar. Well, it is, though, it's a bit spurious. I mean, it's not meant to be a documentary or anything, but even, I mean, certain actions are a bit doubtful. I mean, like, for example, why would they, like, if someone intends to shoot someone else, why would they suddenly decide to abandon that intention just because the other one is feigning poisoning? I mean, it's bizarre. Um, even says I'll finish you up, and then somehow he gave up. Um, not sure. Some actions are bizarre. Um, mm, like that doesn't even serve a comedic purpose. I'm not entirely sure what the point of it is. And it needs to make perfect sense. But I mean, in a movie, even with comedy, just generally, I mean, in this sense, this is not comedic, but generally, actions do need to make some sort of cohesive sense, yeah. Even if the movie generally isn't to be taken, seriously, but they still need to make a bit of sense, don't they? And I don't think generally works as if try to. It's one thing if yeah, playing there's a sort of tactic, but not all those theatrics playing that really only works in certain situations anyway. Like if somebody already thinks you are dead, and you just continue on along with their perceptions or such. And well, as usual, yeah, yeah, finished it. It's really they're really all the same. I mean, this is the thing that his movies so that you know you watch one, you watch them all. Really, it's one of those things, and quite very unique. Um, and that's the aforementioned was pretty much the only love I really had. Other than that, just just there was some comedy, but it was even more comedy, right? It seems like it's a thing, there's even more comedy in the bloopers. Sometimes I'm not sure why they don't just keep the bloopers. Um, but yeah, it's I don't know, how does it compare with the original? It's as I said, very similar, but I don't know. I think it was the original was the finale was in a cave, and it's sort of I don't know. It was a bit more fun in my opinion, but they're very similar. Ultimately, it's not like it makes much difference. In fact, they tried to include some sort of plot in this one, so I mean, in the end, seemed a bit unnecessary. And I'm not sure why they called that guy that, in the wheelchair. It's a bit yeah, that was a bit dubious. I didn't think they needed to do that. The whole thing with the symbols as well. I don't know why they felt like they need to include them. It's not like they had any explanation for any of the like what her who her father was exactly, and stuff like they bothered with any explanation, so I don't know why they did that. I mean, I know they mentioned that it was after World War II, but that's as relevant as they revealed. Really, it's for a comedy movie, they shouldn't really have went there as such. So I mean, it's not like they delve any further. So I don't know why they just skimmed on top with just yeah. That's the only thing. Really. The original didn't have such sort of baggage, I guess you could say. I don't know, but yeah, it's one thing if a movie is about that, and went a bit further on, or it didn't, then this is a comedy anyway. It's not like it has really. If it's if a movie does go in that direction, then it doesn't remain very comic at all. Anyway, but yeah, I mean it's one of those. Uh, I know it's only on average rated a bit better than a bit higher than the original, only a slight bit, but I don't see much difference at all. I mean, all these movies are really identical, pretty much. I don't know, just yeah. I mean, even the martial arts. To be fair, they're very similar. It's the ending scene with their faces and such, and all the wind though. That was something different from comparison to the original. I guess they added some to it. It was sort of funny when they faced each other with their faces. Yeah, and then just crept up on him. That was yeah kind of funny. No, not laugh out loud funny, but just okay funny. But yeah, it's just another one. I'd rather I think I prefer Spellbound that I watched yesterday. That's the comic horror and not comic action. Anyway, Jackie Chan film. Like any of his movies, really, they're all very similar. So I'm watching. I decided to watch now. The third or is it second sequel to what was it called? The original? Yeah, because for some reason they changed their names. So the English name was, yeah, strangely enough, Operation Condor, because it's actually a historical thing that the US did in South America, I think it was. Not sure why that they called it that then. Anyway, yeah, and it's so the original is called, oh yeah, Armour of God for some reason. Not sure why they keep changing names, but there we go. I don't think this is called like Operation Condor 3 or something. I suppose it would if it was, but no, they decided to call it Chinese Zodiac apparently, and there's some number as well for some reason. So anyway, I I only found it dubbed in English, and so I'm just going with it. Otherwise it would take me even longer to find anything else. As it happens though, the first two I watched were in their original Chinese. I'm assuming that was the original. But I did read that there were dubs as well, and that I think, from what I remember, yeah, Jackie did his own dubs, which I'm assuming he did here as well. I mean, at least he has an accent. Uh, but what's strange is that some people do seem like they're speaking English and some do not. Yeah, which makes me think that I think I did read. I think it was for this. I suppose you could call it a franchise at this point. The series or whatever you could call it, series of films. That I think I read that when they dubbed it, even when they filmed it originally, they let actors voice act in their own languages, not which is absurd, really. I think this some look out of place, and anyway, so really, I'm assuming he did something similar here, which is why, assuming if it was in Chinese, they looked like they were speaking it, but then the ones speaking English would look awkward and whereas in English here in the dubbed version, the speakers look obviously like they're speaking it. So in a way, you cannot have a version, I'm assuming, where everyone looks like they're speaking the language that they are speaking, which is a bit awkward, I guess. This is why I prefer movies that just go ahead and let everyone speak their own language and just have subtitles for them. Even get problems with lip sync and whatnot. In terms of the storyline, yeah, I suppose people do not go to Jackie Chan films for a really thorough plot now, do they? But it's incredible how even, I mean, this, I last watched the second, obviously, and it practically has the same plot, and despite being made um, like 20 years before. It's about retrieving someone's grandfather and such. It's a bit of a replica itself, ironically, considering they want to have replicas of these Zodiac things. Not really, just, the second one it was gold, but it's practically the same thing. It's always the same. It's not very imaginative. I know the second one at least has been compared to Indiana Jones. Now I actually haven't seen it yet. I wonder though if all the iterations are so repetitive. The only thing this has, the second, the first didn't have, is technology. He clearly wanted to combine technology along with the usual storyline and jokes and martial arts. The technology does make it more interesting. I mean, and the first scene with that full body vehicle thing was quite impressive. Yep, yep. And then we get what one assumes is a what are they called again? It was the thing they used to make replicas. Obviously they have smartphones as well. There's no way we could have had that in the 90s, obviously. So yeah, he's adopted technology. So he's in his 60s now. Um, by the way, I don't know how people seem to think. I've read some people say that they think his martial arts now currently, as he's older, and as good as, I mean, I don't know. He's been jumping on roofs and whatnot. That's Can't imagine myself at 60 doing that. He is in his 60s, isn't he? Yeah, so no, it's not that bad, is it? And yeah, it was it was the same as every other Jackie Chan movie, really. Obviously, as usual, the only difference I thought there was that it seemed polished. It was very polished. It did look nice, and I see that they also released it for IMAX, and that makes sense. I'm assuming on IMAX it looks even better, but it's I don't know. I wish they invest more in the storyline. It's practically the same thing as the previous one at the very least, except of course it's set in a jungle as opposed to the desert. That's obviously the principal difference. But other than that, uh, yeah, I'm surprised they didn't find some former general that rises out from the dead or something. Instead, there was some counterfeiter who comes and goes. But yeah, this is the thing as well. The as the so-called opponents in this movie are even more feral than the other ones. They I don't know, they just got like those pirates, like who were they? They just came, they seemingly danced with them, what they do seems like a dance. I mean, some weapons are used, but it's mostly a dance, isn't it? It looks like a dance. No wonder then, they call it the choreography. Uh, and they just disappeared again. So, like, the opponents in previous movies were even more permanent than that. I mean, they came back at some point, and the previous movies seemed funny as well. I mean, I remember laughing just a bit more, just a bit, not a huge amount, but with this one, I don't know. This one, it only seemed to have visuals that it really was. So he supposedly did a lot of stunts, the most stunts in a movie I read. Well, I haven't counted them, but they seem to be around the same thing as the previous movies, really. But anyway, mostly it was yeah, the visuals that were interesting. I mean, obviously the ending with the volcano was pretty awesome, I suppose one could say, but just still ultimately, and then there's the where they fell from the sky and then they fought there. That was interesting as well. So, sort of like the difference from the previous film where the wind was horizontal, now it was vertical and such. Otherwise, it's the same thing, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. You see one, you see everything. It seems like, except for the visuals. The visuals were distinctive.